It is now 12 o'clock on Saturday, January 24th. I'm meteorologist Borowski. Welcome to this live stream. We're in the Weather Center right now tracking the winter storm that is moving across the country and tracking toward our state. It'll bring significant freezing rain, especially to the Midlands and the upstate later on overnight tonight into the day tomorrow, followed by frigid temperatures to start off the work week. So we're going to walk through the forecast, answer any questions that you might have. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon, and feel free to type in the comments section and submit any questions that you might have about this evolving forecast and this evolving winter storm event. So let's take a look right now at our graphics. We're going to look first at our radar and satellite imagery across the country right now and really see a wide swath of snow and wintry mix impacting a good portion of the Midwest, the Tennessee Valley, even down to the central and western Gulf Coast. We still have snow flurries impacting parts of Texas and even into New Mexico this hour. But heaviest snow right now looks to be falling over Tennessee, and we do have some freezing rain, sleet, and wintry mix being reported over Mississippi, Arkansas, and northern Louisiana. Just to get a scope of how wide this storm is and how far-reaching it is, roughly from New Mexico to Virginia, we're just shy of 1,500 miles, give or take a few hundred miles in width for this storm. So impacting a large portion of the country today and into the next 36 hours or so with hazardous weather. So I want to jump to right now conditions for us. If I pull up my current temperatures across South Carolina, you'll see we're pretty much sitting still above freezing, just like we were a few hours ago. We are in the upper 30s, mid to upper 30s across the northern Midlands and also in the upstate, sitting in the low to mid 40s in the Midlands right now, and the lower 50s down toward the low country. So chilly, but we're still above freezing this hour. And if I pull up my radar for South Carolina, you'll see pretty much quiet. We had a few maybe light pockets of drizzle of freezing rain or wintry mix move through west of I-85 just a little while ago. I'm not sure if that actually reached the ground, but overall, most of the precipitation either well to our north or well to our west. But that is going to be changing as we go through the afternoon today and into the evening and overnight hours. So I will pull up my futurecast and we will kind of walk through what's going to happen. Our temperatures should be dropping as we get into the afternoon hours, falling to the 30s in some spots, maybe even the upper 20s as we get into the evening hours post sunset. You'll notice on my futurecast here for about 8:30 tonight, give or take an hour or so, our swath of heavier wintry mix and freezing precipitation moving into the I-85 corridor, and that will continue through and after the midnight hour. You'll see after midnight heavier precipitation moving even far east to the I-20 corridor and some dappling of freezing rain and wintry mix toward the I-95 corridor in the PD. But our heaviest precipitation overnight generally occurring near and west of I-20. That continues through around daybreak, maybe an hour or two before daybreak, and then we get a little bit of a reprieve from the onslaught of the freezing precipitation. Again, pockets possible throughout the morning hours tomorrow, but the heaviest again overnight, tonight into tomorrow morning. We get a little break, but then if I zoom out a little bit, you can kind of see what's upstream. Rain and wintry mix still approaching from the west by the time we get to the afternoon hours tomorrow. So I'll walk you through that. Of course, the wintry mix and the rain arriving around dinner time, give or take a few hours. This is our second batch tomorrow evening, approaching the Midlands after dinner time, getting to the I-95 corridor after sunset, and then eventually skirting off the Atlantic coastline before dawn on Monday. You will notice that on my futurecast, we stayed at wintry mix and freezing rain during the first batch, which will occur tonight into early tomorrow. But our second batch of precipitation could be a mix between freezing rain, sleet, and liquid rain. So two things to think about, or two things to watch for as we go through this event and it unfolds over the next 36 hours or so. I want to jump to our forecasted precipitation totals for this entirety of the event. In the last live stream that we had, I showed you a course model, and you'll notice that those forecast precipitation totals, this is for freezing rain, we're on the lower end of the spectrum. I do want to pull up, because I did not pull this up in the last stream, our higher resolution model, which is more detailed and may verify. Our higher resolution model is showing much higher freezing rain accumulation. So there's a big discrepancy right now between the two different in-house models that we have. But I would say think of a blend toward the middle, maybe leaning a little toward the higher, a little bit toward just a little bit above the mean between the two. So with that, I want to point out some potential totals, especially for the upstate. You'll see there's a decent gradient along and west of the I-20 corridors where we will likely see the thickest accumulations of ice, but we should still get a glaze east of I-20 and borderlined to the I-95 corridor, especially in the PD. But if we zoom back into the upstate, we could see anywhere between 1/1500ths and a quarter of an inch of ice, maybe a little bit more toward the capital in Columbia. And it's not out of the realm of possibility toward I-85 to maybe see an inch now with this latest high resolution model coming in. Anywhere between 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch is probably on the better end of the spectrum of what you'll see, although not out of the realm of possibility to see over an inch of ice come in for our ice totals. So just wanted to address that, and we can, as questions come in, we can talk more about those ice totals. Back on our futurecast really quickly, you will notice that our temperatures during the day on Sunday are actually going to warm up a little bit, potentially above freezing, which is why we have rain in the forecast, liquid rain. That will likely, any rain that is lingering on the roadways as we get to the day Monday and temperatures drop overnight Monday into Tuesday, that will likely freeze and cause travel to be difficult on Tuesday morning, well after the system has exited. Looking at alerts that we have in effect right now, again, we talked about this before, I'll continue bringing them up, but we do have an ice storm warning in effect generally for counties hugging the I-20 corridor and west all the way to the mountains, and then a winter weather advisory for most other counties along and east of I-95, with the exception of right along the coastline. Thankfully, the Atlantic Ocean going to mediate temperatures enough directly along the coast in the low country that we shouldn't see too much in the way of accumulating sleet or freezing rain. Let's jump ahead. Well, actually, before I do that, I just want to check in with Rob here in studio with us, if anybody has brought in any questions for us.
Not at the time, but I think they're all kind of following your lead at this moment.
Feel free to type in those questions if you have any forecast questions. I do want to bring up some webcams because we've been taking a look at that in the studio in between these live streams. And just to give you a refresher, here's a look at our radar right now across a good portion of the country. You see that Tennessee is getting in on heavy snowfall rates right now, and then that wintry mix over southern edge of the border of Tennessee with Alabama and Mississippi. So let's take a look at some webcams that we were able to pull up thanks to each state's Department of Transportation. I want to take a look toward central Tennessee and Nashville, take a look on the interstates there to see how things are looking. And we see we do have snow on the interstate in Tennessee on I-40 just to the south and west of Nashville. Looks like most people are heeding the advice of meteorologists and emergency managers and staying off the roadways, although we see a couple of folks traversing on the roads there. We'll go a little bit farther to the south and see if we can get some webcams closer to the border with Mississippi. I know that Memphis was just on the edge of freezing rain. I believe the majority of their precipitation so far has been snow. And if we just take a look at I-55 northbound, we do see one semi out there, but everybody else seems to be off the roads. It looks like we're in one lane each direction for travel, thanks to the majority of the snow being the form of precipitation. If we jump to Mississippi, try to get some images of freezing rain. I'm not sure if this will allow me to zoom in. I can try to zoom in a little bit here and scroll up. Nope, it's not going to let me do that. So we're just going to go back out to 100%. And we'll skip Mississippi for the time being. Alabama, we were looking pretty good before when we pulled up the stream before. We did have some semis traveling. This is outside of Huntsville. It looks like the roads are a little bit slick. We had some wintry mix and freezing rain rather moving on through near Huntsville. seems like some folks are traveling slowly, others are zipping right along. I would suggest don't be out on the roads if you can avoid it as precip moves on through. But back to South Carolina, really we don't have much in the way of anything moving through our area right now. Of course, that is going to change once we get to the evening hours, but our interstates are looking good. No weather-related events, but there's some traffic on the I-95 corridor, which is to be expected. Let's check in and see if we have any questions coming in on social media.
Yes, Wendy has a question. Any
Sure.
snow for Greer? And,
Good question.
Snow is, I guess, specifically what
For
Wendy's
the
asking
most
about.
part, we are not looking at much in the way of snow accumulations from this system. Reason being, surface temperatures are going to be below freezing, but aloft, we are looking at above freezing, which is going to help any rainfall that is, or any precipitation that's falling to melt and then refreeze into sleet or freezing rain. So let me just pull up. This is my currents. Let me pull up my forecast and we could take a look at the upstate. Give me 1 second.
And then Wendy asked another question, like tonight or tomorrow. It's a little bit of both, right?
Yes, and this is the interesting setup. So for the first question, in terms of snow accumulations, you might see flurries, but the bulk of your accumulation is going to be freezing rain and wintry mix as we get to the throughout the event. Now, in terms of timing, it's 2 batches. Let's call it that. 2 batches. The first batch comes through tonight into early morning. You can see on Future Track as I parse through time. We'll start off around dinner time. Push through midnight tonight into Sunday and into the pre-dawn hours tomorrow, with looks like most of it lifting northward by 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Then white colors just mean cloud cover overhead, might have a couple pockets of drizzle, but our next second batch comes through during the mid-afternoon hours tomorrow, and that should start off as freezing rain, and it could transition over to liquid rain. I do think for the I-85 corridor, we should be cold enough at the surface where it will likely stay all freezing rain. It's really toward the Midlands and eastward that we'll see the transition to rain, those green colors there that you can see. So overall, for timing, it's 2 batches. One is during the nighttime hours tonight into pre-dawn tomorrow, and then the second batch will be tomorrow around dinner time, and this is specifically for the upstate. Tomorrow around dinner time through the mid-evening for the upstate, and then we get to the overnight hours farther eastward toward the Midlands, and then to the coastline, the Atlantic coast, before dawn on Monday. Any other questions coming in right now?
That is it so far.
All right, feel free to type away, ask those questions. Again, we talked about the freezing rain totals. Earlier, we showed you kind of the low end of the spectrum, and that's what we were using to answer the questions. This is the low end of the spectrum. It is very likely, given the information that's coming in, that we could actually see the higher end of the spectrum, which is this second model that I'm displaying on the screen right now. So anywhere from 1/2 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch to the north and west of I-20, and we could get 3/4 of an inch and maybe localized pockets of 1 inch of ice along the I-85 corridor, especially toward the higher elevations and once we get into the mountains and the freezing rain skirts on through on Futurecast tonight. I'll pull up those alerts again so you can take a look at them. They actually go into effect over the next course of 45 minutes once we hit the 1 o'clock hour. The ice storm warning and the winter weather advisory officially go into effect. And they will last through the day, or through the middle part of the day on Monday. We looked at radar before. I just want to show you, we do already have power outages coming in across parts of the country. It looks like right now Texas is the winner for power outages total statewide. This is a statewide view, but I will zoom into counties and you'll see that most of it is kind of around Tyler, Texas, where we had a band of freezing precipitation and some snow coming on through before. I do anticipate these polygons are going to start lighting up once we get throughout the day as the day continues, especially toward northern Mississippi and parts of Alabama where we're seeing that sleet and the freezing rain. Right now, snow over a good portion of Tennessee. So we'll be monitoring those power outages as we go through time and the precipitation arrives to our state. I will note that once we get to 1/2 inch accretions of ice and higher, it turns into a moderate to major event in terms of risks for power outages. So while conditions are still relatively quiet, if you still do need to make sure you get those emergency supplies supplies in-house so you can hunker down. You've got a couple more hours where I would say you're pretty much good to go, where you can head out and about safely. But I would start to wrap up those preparations. Make sure you have what you need to shelter in place and stay safe and warm, at least over a 36-hour time period until the conditions at least start to improve a little bit. Of course, again, like I mentioned, for the upstate, we're looking at that precipitation arriving this evening. I'll bring Futurecast back up so y'all can see that really quickly. Once again, toward the upstate, it's really once we get toward dinner time this evening that we start to see in the upstate the heaviest swath of our first batch moving on in from the north and west. One more thing I do want to mention as we continue here is that temperatures are going to drop off once our storm moves out. This last batch of rain and freezing rain is accompanied by a cold front. We'll get frigid winds from the north and west, drying out the atmosphere and causing temperatures to plummet. As we go through the day on Monday, we should be sitting near freezing, especially for the Midlands and the upstate. We'll be in the 40s toward the low country. And then overnight into Tuesday morning, we'll really drop off for Tuesday morning lows, possibly falling into the single digits toward the upstate, and we could fall to the low 20s and upper teens in the Midlands. And once you tack on wind chills to that, it'll feel even colder. So any lingering wetness on roadways, I can't stress this enough, anything that has maybe melted a little bit is going to refreeze, and any ice that is still around will stay around because of these cold temperatures. So even once the storm departs, still not going to be totally all clear to head out and about. So make preparations to just hunker down and stay warm and safe inside and not on the roadways. One last check to see if we have any comments, concerns, or questions on our social media pages. If not, we're going to wrap it up for this particular live stream, but please keep coming on in with your questions, comment on our page, and we can answer the forecast questions for you in terms of impacts and timing. I'll leave the high-end model forecast for our ice accretions. This is for the upstate. I'll leave that on the screen as we wrap up. Make sure that you tune into your local PBS television station around 2 o'clock and on social media as well, because Governor McMaster will be giving an address about the state of emergency and the winter weather that's moving on through. So tune on in for that at 2 o'clock. Otherwise, we will see you in a few hours with another forecast update. For South Carolina, I'm meteorologist Megan Borowski.